All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Fourth Long Podcast, episode 13. We don't have as many bad things to talk about this week as we did last week. There are still a couple games postponed and canceled, but we'll get into that when the time comes. But Jake, how you doing, man?
Good. How are you, Justin?
I'm good. I'm good. I got some good medical news this week, so that's good. And I'm just I'm
That's
ready
good to
for.
hear.
Yeah, and you had your big pepperoni news. I have some news too. I'm gonna out news you, out breaking news you. Um, but yeah, so we have a couple good games this week. Really, two big games this week. And I think one of them could really not be as big of a game, but we'll get into that during the Week 12 slate. We'll also kind of give an update on the coaches on the hot seat. Um, Jake will do two truths and two lies about Florida phenom quarterback Kyle Trask. He loves him. Do you like him more than Zach Wilson now?
Um, that's a tough question, Justin. I've actually thought about that because I thought about that being one of our 1 minute debates. Who is a better quarterback at the moment, Kyle Trask or Kyle Pitts? I think I'd have to go with Zach Wilson, though. I mean, just because he's shown over the last 2 seasons growth, where we'll kind of get into it. Kyle Trask is kind of his first year starting and hasn't and shown really great things, but we don't have a we don't know if this has always been in him or if this is something that he just learned through being in that QB locker room his first 2 years at Florida. But I'd have to go with BYU sensation Zach Wilson first. I think he's a better quarterback mobile wise, and his accuracy is a lot better than Trask at the moment.
Yeah, but you got to admit, Trask is definitely the better.
Oh no, he's definitely had a harder schedule and is proven to be better quarterback. I'm just saying, in my
He's got.
opinion,
He's
skill
got.
wise, I feel like Zach Wilson is better suited for the NFL at the moment. I mean, again, he showed Kyle Trask last week showed great things without Kyle Pitts, but we haven't seen enough of those to say, okay, put him over Zach Wilson. I say it's very close, but in my opinion, I choose Zach Wilson over Kyle Trask.
I'll end that little intro with this. I think that Kyle Trask will get picked in the first round, and I would be surprised if Zach Wilson got picked in the first round. He might get picked at the end of the first round, but like I was telling you before, and I've seen a couple mock drafts with the Patriots, your hometown Patriots, taking Trask late in the first round, and they're not late. I've seen them picking anywhere from 15th to 18th, but either taking Trask, the other guy you talked about, Kyle Pitts, or two receivers. But yeah, let's get into it. Let's get into today in sports history. In 1962, Mickey Mantle won the AL MVP award for the third time. In 1969, Brazilian soccer legend Pelé scored his 1,000th goal. And in 1999, the 11th college football Holy War was played as Boston College beat Notre Dame 31-29 at the Mecca of college football in South Bend. So not as many interesting things as last week, and especially when we missed last week. But unless you got anything to say, we're going to head into our news and notes, and which is really our COVID updates. But we don't have as many of those this week, so we'll head into that. And I'll just start off the bat by telling you the games that are either canceled or postponed. Charlotte at versus Marshall is postponed. Ole Miss at Texas A&M is postponed. Georgia Tech at Miami is postponed, and Houston versus SMU is postponed. I think that's it. I'm not positive though, so let me look real quick. But that's still, I mean, it's still a decent amount. You don't like to see that, but it is what it is. It seems to be what today is. What's going on with the world today. And I'm trying to get the college basketball thing together, and I still really don't know if how they're gonna play it or anything like that. Oh yeah, and Central Arkansas versus Louisiana has been canceled. Texas versus Kansas has been postponed. And did I say Ole Miss at Texas A&M has been postponed as well? So not as many big names out there that are postponed, and it looks like we'll have Wisconsin for the first time for 2 straight weeks. But unless you got anything about those cancellations, we'll get into a little bit of some LSU news and some MAC news and some recruiting news.
Mhm. I think the only thing I have to say is I'm glad to see teams are starting to take things a little bit more seriously, and we actually have a good slate of games this week. It's unfortunate some of these games have gotten canceled, but at the same time, I'm glad to have a good amount of interesting football games back this week.
Yeah, at least it's not last week's slate where, I mean, you could have asked like Kirk Herbstreit, who was all playing last week, the college football like expert, and I don't think he would have known. So
Yeah.
we'll start off with LSU left tackle. His first name is Dare Rosenthal. Rejoined the team this week after being suspended indefinitely in mid-October. I'm not going to touch on anything that's going on at LSU right now. There's been some allegations and things going on, but until we know more, I would refrain from saying much. I don't know if this has anything to do with that. But it's been a horrible year for LSU. Which is kind of okay because I guess if I had a favorite team, if they won an S championship, then had a bad year, I'd be okay with it, kind of. But I mean, they're having a putrid year, and it's just I don't know what's going on. And like I said, when we learn more, we might share it, we might not. But we are definitely not the type of people that you need to hear like allegations and criminal stuff from. In my opinion, you might want to check CNN. All right, and Tuesday night, Buffalo's Jarrett Patterson rushed for 301 yards and 4 touchdowns against Bowling Green. Now that's the MAC. Let me tell you, Bowling Green is horrible. Like they are horrible. And Jarrett Patterson has played them twice in his career, and he has 599 yards rushing in those 2 games and 10 touchdowns. That's insane.
Jeez, that is insane.
Because Bowling Green wasn't bad that last year, but I mean they're terrible this year.
One thing I also want to touch on is we also had a big matchup last night between number 25 Tulsa and Tulane, and just we were talking about it before we came live. The ending to it was insane. Tulsa, for those who don't know, Tulsa was down to their 3rd string quarterback. They had a kind of a putrid game up to that point. They didn't. They scored, I believe, 20. They only scored 21 points in the 4th quarter, and it was just insane. Their 3rd string quarterback who was in threw a Hail Mary in the final seconds of the game to send it in the overtime, and it didn't take 1 but 2 overtimes to do it. In which I believe it was, I'm gonna probably mispronounce Zavin Collins.
I think so. Number 23, I know that.
Yeah. Zavin Collins, their kind of stud cornerback / linebacker, he's played a little bit of both, had a 96-yard pick 6 to end the game in his senior season. And it was just absolute mayhem. I mean, but you had talked about this kind of last week. Tulsa's like the place you go and you just have a terrible game. Like they're beating everyone, even though Tulane was favored going into this game. Tulsa came out of nowhere last minute and just insane. I mean, Tulane didn't have an impressive outing. Their quarterback was 8 of 17 with 76 yards passing, 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. I mean, their run game was what really carried them. Stefan Henderson is kind of a underrated back. I mean, he's a big back that can carry the ball. He had 25 carries, 106 yards, and a touchdown. He's kind of been creeping up a little bit on people's draft boards, not for a first-round pick, for maybe a mid-second to third-round guy. He's been reliable this year. He's had a couple games over 100 yards with under 25 carries. This game he hit 25. But you might see people start talking about him as we get closer to the draft times. But Tulsa it was, again, just a crazy ending, and I just wanted to bring it up as part of our news this week.
Yeah, I ended up putting it on the outline, but not the one I sent you. Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I've driven through Tulsa once. It's like a city, but like it's all just flat buildings all the way across in the Midwest. It's a weird place to be. But yeah, if you get the chance, we're working on we are working on trying to get clips uploaded possibly into this, just maybe show some clips of players and plays. So hopefully in the next coming weeks we'll be able to do that. And I was going to put that in here, but definitely go look up the Tulsa Tulane ending on YouTube, and you'll see it. It's pretty. It was amazing. And the last thing I have for the news and notes is we kind of talked about him last week, I believe. Quinn Ewers, the quarterback from South Lake Carroll, the ESPN
finally committed.
Yeah, the ESPN 300 junior. He decommitted from Texas on October 28th,
Yeah.
and a lot of people had him picking either Alabama, Florida, Clemson, or Auburn. But he ended up coming all the way to Ohio State. He committed to Ryan Day and the Buckeyes, and rumor has it he's on the recruiting trail for the Buckeyes, telling all the receivers and other guys like that in Texas they should join him in Columbus. But
my biggest thing here to take away from that, and I don't mean to cut you off, Justin,
no, go
but
ahead.
how are you, if not one of the biggest teams in Texas and the biggest Texas tradition, and lose out on the number one player in your state and in the country? I mean, that's just mind-blowing to me. How does the number one player who grew up in Texas, plays in Texas, chose Texas, just decommits and then goes to everyone, I remember reading an article earlier this week about it before he committed, saying no one could believe when he decommitted that Ohio State was in the front running because he's never been outside of it. Outside of Texas.
Yeah, I
and
mean,
it's just crazy to me that this kid chose to decommit from a school in his own state that he grew up watching, grew up going to games with, and goes all the way to the Midwest in Ohio State. That's just crazy to me.
You're not gonna like the snow up here, but you never know. Yeah, and it's crazy he went to Ohio State too, because before he committed to Texas, I believe Texas, Auburn, for some God known reason. If you are a quarterback and you want to go to Auburn, just look at Bo Nix and don't do it. Auburn, Clemson, and Alabama were like the top contenders. And then once he decommitted, I guess Ohio State quarterbacks coach Corey Dennis, I believe his name is, has been like keeping tabs on him the whole time, even when he committed to Texas, talking about him. And I wrote an article on the piece. It's a big get for Ohio State. And if you can, I mean, Ohio State's they're just picking up all the recruits and they're kind of becoming Clemson as well probably will be, but they're kind of becoming a quarterback with the guys they put out, Dwayne Haskins. It used to be Ohio State was the team that would be the real dual threat guys, but Dwayne Haskins was pretty much a pocket passer. Cardell Jones, when he played, he probably should have gone pro after the two playoff games, but who knows why he came back. And Clemson with Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence, and DJ Ugalali. I don't know his name, but so we're gonna skip. That's a great segue, actually. So we're gonna skip over Two Truths and True Lies for a second. We're gonna hit up the coach on the hot seat, and you said it perfectly. I have one of the guys I have on here is Tom Herman and Joel Klatt, who works for Fox. I believe he went on Coward's show, or I don't know, or it's one of those shows, and he said that it's a big problem, and it's that he's not getting the recruits from Texas to come to Texas, and the board is not happy and everything like that. So he's going to definitely be on the hot seat. The other guys I have, Jim Harbaugh, we've talked about it as nauseum. I think Michigan's off this week. They're lucky because they would probably lose again, but so I don't have any predictions for the Jim Harbaugh saga just because.
Oh, wait. I did some research. I just want you to hear the stats since Jim Harbaugh has been at Michigan. 0-11 as an underdog, 1-4 in bowl games, 0-5 versus Ohio State, 11-16 versus top 25 teams, 0 division titles, and 0 Big Ten titles.
Yeah,
I mean, to a coach that you brought in solely to be competitive and put Michigan back on the map, what has happened? to this, because Harbaugh wasn't a terrible coach, but he's not
He
getting
went
the
to the
bigger
Super
fish.
Bowl. He went to the
Yeah,
Super Bowl. The only reason he didn't win the Super Bowl is because the stupid power went out.
yeah,
But yeah, I have no idea what's going to happen because we've talked about it. I mean, Michigan's not going to hire a better guy, and I don't know if Harbaugh has a place to go in the NFL.
yeah.
I
I
have,
I completely agree with that. I mean,
I'm gonna throw his try.
to be honest, I think Michigan, especially if they lose out, like they possibly could, is just I think he's gone no matter what.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
mean,
you just got
I feel like what they'll do is they'll take a year off, they'll promote someone in house, and then wait for someone to come, up. And you never know. Maybe their assistant coach, one of the assistant coaches, is the next latest and greatest thing.
the two coordinators. What's the Michigan offensive? Josh Gaddis clearly has not worked because their offense
No.
is terrible, and Don Brown's like 74. So I don't really know if they'd go with one of them, but it could be, that could happen. But and then another coach I had who's kind of on the hot seat is Ed Orgeron. Like I said, they're having a terrible year, but on top of all that, there's assault allegations going around there, and usually when that happens, I mean, you saw it with Urban Meyer kind of, and you saw it with Hugh Freeze when he was at Ole Miss. I mean, coaches just kind of choose to resign, and if I was at Orgeron, I'd probably resign right now and just say, hey, I coached 2 years at LSU, won one national championship, had maybe one of the best teams in college football, one best offenses in college football history.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have Clay Helton on here. I think his seat is cooling down a bit, even though USC had to struggle to get past Arizona last week. And obviously, and then the week before, they had to score 2 touchdowns a minute and 32 seconds to beat Arizona State. So, like I said, I think but I think he's good for now unless they hear from Urban Meyer that he'll come coach him. So, as long as you
Yeah.
don't have anything after that, you
Not
can
really.
give me your 2 truths and 2 lies, and then we will kind of go through the slate rather quickly. Not quickly, but just go over it as well as we can. So, hit me with the Kyle Trask.
All right, Kyle Trask. Before the 2019 season, so not this year, the year before, Trask never started a game because he backed up De'Aaron King in high school. Number 2, in high school, King was the superstar at their high school. I believe it's called Melvin High School. Don't quote me on that. Hold on a sec. Manville High School. King was the straight out superstar at the high school. So Kyle Trask is the 11th starting quarterback for the University of Florida since Tim Tebow in 2012, and his name is inspired by Kyle Field, the stadium of Texas A&M.
Fourth one's true.
Okay.
And then I think the third one's true too, because I don't think him. Maybe I'll go with the fourth and third are true.
Fourth and third?
Yeah.
Unfortunately not. The first one is true. Before 2019 season, Kyle Trask never started a game except after his freshman year in high school. He backed up De'Aaron King.
So I mean that makes 2 kind of true too then as well.
No, De'Aaron King was not the true superstar at Manville High School. It was Brianna Turner, women's basketball.
The chick from UConn.
Yeah, but
No, wait,
that was false.
no.
No, she went to Notre Dame. Notre Dame.
I don't know. She isn't. Never mind.
And he is the 12th starting QB for the University of Florida since Tim Tebow after 2012.
I can only name like 2 or 3.
No, I can't. I looked up the list. It's no one
obviously, no, it really stands out. Yeah,
yeah.
That was a good one.
I tried to do it this time, so it was like a little bit more difficult because I know the previous time it was like kind of 2 obvious ones and then one completely false. But
yeah, for some reason I knew that he was named after Kyle Field. I think maybe for one of my two truths and 2 lies, I was thinking about Kyle Trask, but whatever. But so with that being said, that was a good one, Jake. That was a good one. That was somewhat
realistic
and doable, other than the ones where he has 3 brothers and 2 sisters. Wait, no, he has 2 brothers and 5
Yeah.
sisters. So
Yeah.
we'll try and keep it like that, and maybe the fans and everyone else there can get it too. But with that, we head into the Week 12 slate. Obviously, it is headlined by the upstart Indiana Hoosiers at Ohio State and the Bedlam series tomorrow night at 7:30 in Oklahoma. But we will start out with the noon game, Indiana Ohio State. I hate how the Big Ten does this. They started it like last year or 2 years ago. They play all their big games at noon. Like I understand Michigan, Ohio State because they always have played at noon, but I just hate the noon kick, and then you have to wait another 3.5 hours for the big games at 8 or 7:30. But yeah, Indiana at Ohio State. Ohio State's favored by 20.5. I think that number will keep going up, and the over-under is 66.5. And basically the notes that I have, if the game was played on paper, Ohio State would win by 25, 30 points. Justin Fields has been incredible. He's 72 for 83 for 11 touchdowns. He has the same amount of touchdowns as incompletions. I mean, it's only through 2 games because they were off or they got canceled last week, but still, that's pretty darn good. If Indiana can keep it somewhat close going into the late stages of the third quarter or the fourth quarter, then they can have a chance, I think. But it's going to be tough for them. Stevie Scott III is their workhorse running back. He's a bit like Chuba Hubbard. He rushes and carries the workload, but he doesn't always get the big stats. So, and Michael Penix Jr., I mean, he's the worst quarterback for a winning team, I think, out there. He's 91. I mean, he's okay, but he's not anywhere. He hasn't like been the leader. Indiana doesn't have any like superstars or stars that you think that they would, like an upstart Indiana would have to have him reach these heights. So, yeah, Michael Penix Jr. is 91 for 150 for 1,070 yards. Let me close my door. Shut up, Zoe! All right, so yeah, Michael Penix Jr. Is our quarterback. He is 91 for 150 on the year. I think it's around 60, 65, 70% for 1,070 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 3 picks. That's okay numbers, but it's not the numbers that you would expect when you see that they've beaten Penn State, a good Penn State team, or maybe not a good Penn State team, but and teams like that. Whop Phillier, I just love his name. He's a big play threat. But really, basically, how Indiana wins is they win the turnover battle and they stop you from converting on 3rd and 4th downs, basically. So if Ohio State gets on a roll, they're going to get on a roll. But if they start slow, it could be a lot closer than anticipated. Their defense only allows 19.3 points per game. And yeah, like I said, if they can get Justin Fields kind of out of his groove, I think they can pull it off. But I'm not going to go with it. I like Ohio State to win 45-28. So Ohio State wins, but Indiana covers the 20.5. And unless you got anything about that, we'll head to your super jacked boys out in Oregon. Your Noah or your Noah Sewell and the other Kayvon Thibodeau.
Yeah. Well, Kayvon Thibodeau are Justin Flo is out for the year, torn meniscus. So not surprised. Those muscles were way too big. Something's going on there, and just the muscle turtle is out for the year.
He got popped for PEDs, and they just said he has a meniscus tear.
Yeah. So I mean, this is a very interesting matchup. I mean, talk about a coach that might be on the hot seat. I mean, Chip Kelly at UCLA, only 7 wins through the first 2 seasons. Was supposed to go in there and really turn that team around and just hasn't done that. I mean, this year has been a little bit different, but I mean, their offense is still abysmal, to say the best. It showed some promise last week against Colorado, but I mean, this defense, once they get after their UCLA starting quarterback, won't, they kind of crumble under pressure. But Oregon, on the other hand, is just come out and been absolutely dominant. And it's not the passing game, it's the run game. CJ Verdell is a very good running back. I mean, just can do pretty much anything. He can catch out of the backfield pretty well. He's a dual threat to, receive out of the backfield and run the ball. And their quarterback, Tyler Show, is showing he can be pretty good. I mean, he was shaky week 1, but again, to be expected when you're starting this late into the year. But I think UCLA absolutely handles Oregon handles UCLA. And I have them covering at minus 13.5. I think it will probably also hit the over, but I feel safer in taking the minus 13.5.
Yeah, well, you're lucky. You're lucky when you took minus 13.5 when you did, because it's all the way up to 17 now. And it's not one of my picks, but I liked Oregon minus 13.5 as well.
I mean, I'd still even take them at 17. To be honest,
once it gets past like 15 or 16 for me, it seems like a lot, but we'll see.
Says the guy who chose, what was it, 32 points for Clemson? And they missed. He chose minus 32 all those weeks ago.
Do you have anything else to say? Because that's a great segue again.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. We'll get into the number 4 Clemson at Florida State. And there you go, Justin. That's your segue.
God, I don't even need you to talk in this. You just got to set me up for things like that. This is about as lopsided as this rivalry has ever been.
Oh God! I mean, I just want to say this used to be a really good competitive matchup that we looked forward to. Now it's just like Clemson's backups getting film against like the scout team. Like, this is basically a practice where you have the scout team versus the first line defense and the first line offense. It's just.
Yeah,
I feel bad for Florida State. I feel like this game. I feel like they should just fake COVID this year so they can move past this game.
Yeah. I mean, it's bad. Clemson's favored by 35, and the over/under is 65.5. I expect Trevor Lawrence to be a little rusty, but he's back and he's healthy. He's 135 or 191 for 1,833 yards, 17 touchdowns, 2 picks. For Lawrence, this is more of he needs to have a great game to keep up in the Heisman race.
Yeah.
For more than anything else. And I don't know if I expect it or I kind of hope for it for his sake, but look for Travis Etienne to have a big game. I mean, he's kind of fallen off the map lately, especially against Notre Dame. But I think he'll have over 100 yards rushing and probably around 60, 65 yards receiving. And there's really nothing to say about Florida State. Earlier in the year, I kept saying like they have the athletes so they could pull the upset. They don't have the athletes. They don't have the coach. And there was an article on ESPN earlier this week that this is the lowest Florida State's program's ever been. So I do like Clemson to win 51-27, but FSU to cover that 7 or that 5 touchdown spread. So that's what I got on that one. And I know we were talking about Quinn Ewers earlier and Bo Nix. Well, let's talk about Auburn.
I mean, it's kind of hard to talk about this game because both teams have really struggled this year. I mean, I know Auburn is, I believe, 4-2, and Tennessee is 2-4. Tennessee hasn't been terrible, but the biggest problem for them is at quarterback. I mean, just can't get anything going. And I mean, Auburn has kind of rebounded a little bit, but at the same time not. I mean, their offense is pretty abysmal. I don't know what to talk about for this game. I mean, Tennessee is a little bit of a dumpster fire, but Auburn's even more, especially with Bo Nix at quarterback, because everyone touted this. I mean, we were talking about it at the beginning of the year. He was top 5 Heisman conversation going into the year.
Yeah, for no reason.
No, for no reason. And then we didn't expect him to stay there. We expected him to maybe stay in the top 10 for voting, maybe. But other than that, he just completely fell off the cliff. I think this is actually going to be a really close game. I think Tennessee can get things going, especially against Auburn. And so I take Tennessee plus 10.5 in this game. But I think a more interesting matchup to talk about is
don't go there yet. before we get into that one that you almost tried to get into, uh, Bo Nix is night and day home and away. Inside Jordan Hare, he has 7 touchdowns and no picks, and on the road, he has 4 interceptions.
Yeah.
So, and this
I
one's
brought that up earlier when we talked about one of the early matchups in the year.
yeah,
He's so much better at home, and his away record is like, oh, better start someone else.
yeah, and a lot of people haven't really heard of him, but Tank Bigsby is a true freshman running back for Auburn. I think he was a top 25 recruit last year. He's had a really great year. He has 89 carries for 503 yards and 5 touchdowns. And they just this week they added him to the Doak Walker Award watch list. And I just don't. I like Auburn minus 10.5. If Bo Nix doesn't throw interceptions and they hand the ball off to Bigsby and the rest of their playmakers, then they'll be fine. But as you were saying, we're going to head into the surprise almost as it is that we get to see these guys play 2 weeks in a row. Wisconsin at Northwestern. And for the people who don't really know the Big Ten, there's the East and the West. The East is much more loaded than the West. Probably why Michigan sucks. Part of the reason. But this game will probably determine who represents. Because I still don't understand how they're going to do the Wisconsin cancellations, but it'll probably determine who's going to come out of the West and play in the Big Ten championship. Graham Mertz and Wisconsin are rolling right now. Graham Mertz through 2 games is 32 and 43 for 375 yards, 7 touchdowns. Usually their quarterbacks have like 7 touchdowns on the year. So he's playing really well. Wisconsin also scores 47 points per game, and they just absolutely like just deflated and crushed and like decapitated Michigan last week, 49-11. Northwestern's defense is solid too, but Wisconsin's defense is lethal. They only allow 9 points a game through 2 games, which isn't a great sample size, but it is what it is. And then Northwestern only allows 14. But I would expect this game to be low scoring. And if Pat Fitzgerald and the Wildcats have any chance to win, they need to play pretty much a perfect game. And so I really like Wisconsin minus 7.5, but I love Wisconsin Northwestern over 44 because I think Wisconsin could cover 44 by themselves if they get rolling.
I agree with that, and I'm gonna kind of go a little bit off script here. As much as I love my boys at Coastal Carolina, and them being 15th and ranked high, I mean Appalachian State's kind of abysmal this year. Coastal Carolina is minus 5.5. I take that, but the more interesting matchup, I'm surprised is not on here. Number 13 Georgia at Mississippi State. My bad. Mississippi State at Georgia. Number 13 Georgia. Can we get a round of applause for JT Daniels finally being able to start a game? We've been calling for this for weeks now.
How did I miss that? Okay. Wow. Okay. I thought that was canceled. My bad. I missed that. That's my bad.
No worries.
Yeah. He's starting this week.
Yes, he is.
Oh my God.
Starting quarterback this week.
I love my pick even more now.
I'm looking up the money line as we speak and the odds, but holy moly, can we finally get if he comes out here, throws like anywhere close to over 300 yards and at least 3 or 4 touchdowns and no picks, I say Georgia's head coach might be on the hot seat now, because what was he thinking and not starting this kid sooner?
Yeah,
after the debacle was with I don't even remember the starting quarterback.
Juwan Mathis and Stetson Bennett or whatever his name. Yeah, the line here is Georgia minus 25, so they're predicting by 25, and the over/under is 44.5. And now that I just heard this news that JT, I don't know how I didn't hear it, but JT Daniels is playing. The over/under is 44.5. I might have to lock in that over because.
Oh no, I'd lock in the over. I think it's going to be a close game. But again, Georgia's defense might actually come out and play. But yeah, they announced it, I believe, either last night or this morning. JT Daniels will start Saturday. But we finally get to see this kid actually play. Very talented. I think is going to be a great fit for them. Might be a better Jake Fromm comparison. It might actually help this team. They're not going to make it into the playoff this year, but might actually help them make a bowl game and actually save their season. But I mean, don't you think if they don't, if they win this game and JT Daniels is the stud that many people think he'll be, and is at least somewhat accurate as a freshman, well, not a freshman, he's a second year because he transferred, but at least show like what he showed in garbage time at USC. I mean, don't you think their coach is on the hot seat because they waited this long?
I think Kirby Smart's been on like the low key hot seat for a while. He can't win big games, but the problem for them is they just like Michigan, they can't get anyone better. He used to be the defensive coordinator for Alabama. I mean, so what are you going to do? I mean, and he produces winning seasons every week. Every year, but yeah, that's big news. And I know you said if he comes out and is the star and the stud, that the coach looked like an idiot. But if he comes out and looks like crap, then the coach maybe is an idiot, and maybe Georgia needs to start recruiting quarterbacks. But
I don't think that's going to be the case. But you never. It could go either way.
Do you want to pick on that or no?
Would you say what it was minus what?
Georgia is favored by 25, and the over-under is 44.5.
44.5.
I'd probably stay away from this game.
Yeah, to be honest, I mean, I'm gonna make a choice but it's not gonna be one of my locks this week. But I would choose. It's so difficult. I just don't know if he'll cover 25.5 because we don't know if he'll be the stud that we all think he is, or he could flop.
Yeah.
I'd probably take the over of 44.5. I think that's the safest bet. I mean, I just don't think. I mean, they could cover, but I want to stay away from minus 25. I mean, that's just for that team, especially. I just think that's way too high.
Yeah, especially because even if he does look great, they still just won't score a lot of points. But you ran through Appalachian State Coastal real quickly. I'm going to go through Cincinnati UCF real quickly. Since he's favored by 6 and the over/under is 63.5. This is Cincinnati's toughest game left on their schedule until the whatever it is the AAC Conference Championship. Desmond Ridder has been phenomenal this year. He's 122 for 183 for 1,483 yards and 14 touchdowns, and he's also a big play threat on the ground if he needs to be. But Dylan Gabriel for UCF's they run an air raid offense down there in the Bounce House, but he's having a good year too. He's 179 for 283 for 2,774 yards, 23 touchdowns to only 2 picks, which is very good. But then again, it's probably not against the best competition. And if I were to have to go with one of these, I'd still think the line started at 7. Now it's 6, so I'll take it at 6. That's a good football number to take it at. And with that, unless you got anything else, we will get into our game of the week, which is Bedlam. I don't know why they call it Bedlam, but I just like to call it Bedlam. I think it's called the Bedlam series, but I just say Bedlam. Number 14, Oklahoma State at number 18, Oklahoma. This game is always exciting, close, and crazy. And especially that's what you expect from the Big 12. It should be high scoring, I would think. Spencer Rattler came into the year kind of as like an under the radar, like one of the better quarterbacks in the country. He's been he ended up for like kind of falling off a cliff for a while, but he is playing above average of late. He's 141 for 208, 2018 yards, 18 touchdowns, but 6 picks. And for Oklahoma State, Spencer Sanders has been a turnover machine. He's thrown 3 picks, and just in the Texas game alone, he lost 3 fumbles. So they need to win the turnover battle if they want to have a chance to win. Look for Tylan Wallace to surpass the century mark in receiving yards and have 1 or 2 touchdowns, and Chuba Hubbard will be his usual self, rushing the ball 24 to 28 times for anywhere from 85 to 115 yards, just a kind of a workhorse, picking up 3 yards a carry. And I believe Oklahoma's favored by 7 right now. I don't like that. I'd stay away from that, but I do like the over a lot, 59.5. I do
Yeah.
like it a lot.
Interesting fact, actually, I forget why I know this, but I did. It's actually called Bedlam because of the rivalry between their prestigious wrestling schools
Yes,
and
yes,
because the wrestling programs, I mean, and
yeah,
the crowds that would come out were just insane. I mean, they've named it mostly because of the football rivalry, like it's kind of taken over that. But I mean, before last year, well, the all-time series record was Oklahoma 88, Oklahoma State 18, and there was 7 ties. So it hasn't been a bedlam as per se because they're, chaos and uncertainty because Oklahoma's just run over these last couple of years. But I think this year is going to be one of the better bedlam matchups. I mean, Oklahoma's defense has really, shown out this year and proven they can take over here. But I mean, Oklahoma this year, Spencer Rattler's been pretty decent, but hasn't been, shown that he needs room to improve. And he's choked in big games. He choked earlier this year, and I think this is going to be another choke game for him. I think Oklahoma State is going to, hands down, be the better team. I mean, Chuba Hubbard is going to run all over that Oklahoma defense. And I just think Oklahoma is a more all-around sound team where Oklahoma this year is just an offensive team. Their defense is pretty lackluster. Now, as you had it in our outline, was -7 to Oklahoma. I take the plus here. I take +7 here. I just think Oklahoma State is going to be too much for Oklahoma this year.
yeah. Oklahoma's won the last 5 in the series, and so that's mostly because since Lincoln Riley's been there, and they kind of have the offense. But so let's just go over our picks. I don't know if you're gonna be able.
One thing I have to say, they said the same thing about BYU going into Boise State.
Shut up.
And look what happened. They were 0-5. Now they're 1-5.
Okay, here's our big board and our picks. I took a picture of it. It's on Instagram, and it's on Facebook and Twitter and whatever else. Do its pictures. On the year so far, I don't think we counted any, or we did 3 last week maybe. Our picks. I'm 9-4. You're 8-4 because I think you pushed in the Coastal game last weekend. But like we already went over my picks this week. These aren't my locks, but the picks: Ohio State wins, but Indiana covers. So Indiana plus 20.5, FSU plus 35, Wisconsin -7.5, Cincinnati -6, and I'm going the opposite way of you. I got Oklahoma -7.
All right, my picks this week: I have Oregon -13.5 versus UCLA, Auburn versus Tennessee. I'm gonna actually stay out of that one. I did have +1.5, but I'm not gonna have it as one of my locks this week. I have my lock this week: Coastal Carolina -5.5 against Appalachian State, and my last lock of the week is going to go opposite.
These are different. These are different than our locks. We've explained this. These are just the picks for the games we covered.
Okay, well, I'm choosing them as also my locks, but
okay. Well, then you'll have to tell me afterwards so I can put them on the big board because I didn't hear you.
I also my pick this week is also Oklahoma State +7 versus Oklahoma.
So like that, our locks. I mean, I guess I'm the only one who does it. Who knows? We're combined 16-4. Both of us are 8-2. I don't know.
Just give a round of applause for that.
Right. Golf clap.
16-4
golf clap. Golf clap. I have no idea.
I don't know how we're 16-4.
I don't know.
That's almost better than the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Vegas Dave himself in college football this year.
Yeah, because Vegas Dave got famous because he got rich off of like a couple bets, and then the bets he gives out. Have you ever seen him? It's like when Clemson.
It's like $1,000. It's like $1,000 per pick. I don't understand.
Yeah, because he picks.
Come listen to our podcast. We're just the same.
He picks like a Clemson Wake Forest game, and he picks Clemson to win, but it's $1,000 bet, so he wins like 500. So it's stupid. He's an idiot.
Dude, I mean, it's almost
come to me. I'm free.
Dude, I mean, I've been seeing a gamer that I watch. His name's Nick Merckx. Put $2,000 a couple weeks ago on the 49ers versus Green Bay. He put them for +6. I'm just I I can't believe some people who make stupid bets like that. You're just saying, here, take my $2,000.
All right. And then, like I said, my locks this week: Wisconsin Northwestern over 44, Auburn minus 10.5, Oklahoma State Oklahoma over 59.5, Mississippi State Georgia over 44.5, and Cincy minus 6.
Wow.
And you kind of explained yours, so you just have to text me them so I can put them on the board.
Wait,
But
what did you say? You said Oklahoma. You have one of your locks in the thing is Oklahoma State +7. You realize that, right? If you look at the outline.
I did.
I just want to make sure you're confident in that.
I didn't pick Oklahoma State. No, I didn't. No, my locks are not there. I had Oklahoma covers -7 in the outline. It's -7, and then they're not. The only way they're in my locks is the over. So
Okay. Okay. We'll talk about it afterwards. But I think this could be and I'll tell you my locks. But my locks this week are Oregon versus UCLA -13.5. If you want to write these down, Justin.
Yeah, Oregon -13.5.
Coastal Carolina -5.5.
Okay.
Oklahoma State +7.
Okay.
And then Georgia, Mississippi State over 44.5. And also, I'll also join in on you on the Cincinnati one. I think Cincinnati's gonna roll this week, -6. So we have 5.
Yep. All right. Cool. So that's our locks for the week.
Which I think is a great segment into players you should be watching if you do make those picks. Me and Justin kind of talked this week, and we went with a combined top 3. But I'll let Justin do it since he was a heavy driving force behind most of these.
Yeah. So the first one is Desmond Ridder. I kind of talked about him earlier. He's going to play in arguably the toughest game that they'll play this year. He'll need to play big to get a W in the bounce house. And side note, how cool is UCF Stadium being named the bounce house? That's awesome.
Actually, that's I think one of the cooler names for college football. College football college football stadiums in general. I mean,
yeah,
it's just that's a dope name.
Yeah, and then obviously Kyle Trask. Kyle Pitts seems to be out again this week, but
they're going up against. I just have one thing to say. They're going up against 0-6 Vanderbilt. I'm sorry, but
yeah, I have written down here. Look for him to have a field day.
Oh, absolutely.
Mainly because he needs to have a field day to keep pace in the Heisman race as well.
Yeah.
And then the third one I have is Tommy Togai, the defensive tackle from Ohio State. We talked about him, I think, 3 weeks ago when they played Penn State.
Yep. He leads a monster game on the interior.
Yeah, he leads the Buckeyes with 3 sacks on the interior. Their defensive line has not been the defensive line of the past at Ohio State. I mean, it's been obvious, but their offense is just that much better. So they revolve around Indiana revolves around running Stevie Scott and Michael Penix making easy throws. So right now he leads the team in sacks. So you got to watch him because on the interior, especially for how big he is, he's very quick off the ball. So look for him to have at least 1 sack and probably 2 or 3 tackles for loss. But
one name I'm going to add to the list that we kind of touched upon this week is definitely going to have to be JT Daniels for Georgia.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we've been calling it for weeks. We've been wanting him to start. They haven't started him. Now they're finally starting him. And this is make or break for this kid. I feel like if he shows out, then it makes the coach look like a fool. If he flops, then it's like, well, why'd you transfer from USC? And why, now we understand why your coach sat you all these weeks. And we look kind of like big morons. But I mean, again, then they have to start recruiting quarterbacks again because
they do have a quarterback coming in next year's class, like the number 8 overall prospect, but I just don't trust any of the, like, he somehow made Justin Fields be bad at Georgia and didn't play him at all when Jake Fromm was having a bad year last year,
yeah.
2 years ago. So it's about that time of the year where we're gonna kind of get to seeing some awards, their semifinalists be announced and some of the candidates. So I'm just gonna name off these awards, and you can name one or two people, or just I can name the people and you can say something about it. But for Coach of the Year, I think it's going to go between Luke Fickell of Cincinnati, Hugh Freeze of Liberty, Dan Mullen at Florida, and Brian Kelly at Notre Dame. I have a hard time believing Kelly or Mullen will win because I don't see Florida beating Alabama in the SEC championship, and Brian Kelly also killed a person. So, and Hugh Freeze has
You
done a
always
great
bring
job.
that up, man. You always.
And Hugh Freeze done a great job at Liberty after his debacle at Ole Miss, hiring escorts for his recruits. And if Cincinnati wins out, I think the award hands down goes to Luke Fickell.
Got it.
And then the 3 people for the Doak Walker Award, the outstanding running back. Obviously Najee Harris, Alabama. Travis Etienne out of Clemson, who's kind of fallen off the map a little bit, but this guy is my favorite, and I think he might end up winning it. Breece Hall, the running back from Iowa State. He's been real good this year. He averages around 150 yards a game, and he's just really under the radar. For the Chuck Bednarik Award, the best defensive player, right now this has been a weird year for defensive players because there's been so much offense throughout college football that it's like almost hard to pick them. But for the 3 guys I have are Dylan Moses from Alabama, the linebacker, who's been very solid and basically runs is the field general out there. I have in my first candidate probably be right now Notre Dame linebacker Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I mean, he had a huge game against Clemson, and and then I have OSU linebacker Baron Browning, simply because I couldn't think of any other defensive players.
Got it.
Because there's no real defensive end or defensive tackle that really sticks out at you this year, like you've had before with Chase Young or the Bosa brothers, or like a Scooby Wright out of Arizona. So yeah. And then the last one I have, we'll get into obviously some more awards, maybe next week, maybe next Tuesday or Friday. The Jim Thorpe Award, the best defensive back. I think Alabama corner Patrick Surtain III is pretty much a shoo-in. He's had a great year. But then I have also Notre Dame safety Kyle Hamilton. He's just he doesn't have any interception out of the year, but he has made a lot of big tackles, and he kind of, when he's playing safety for them, he kind of forces them to use half the field because he covers one half. And then Cincinnati DB Ahmad Gardner. He plays what's called the sniper position, I believe. I believe it's him. It might be a different Cincinnati defensive back, but it's like a sniper position. It's almost like they almost run like a 4-2-5 with defensive backs. And sniper position is obviously opposite the weak side linebacker, and he kind of is like almost like a Derwin James, Buda Baker, Tyrann Mathieu kind of player. But he has 3 interceptions on the year, and there haven't been many interceptions thrown in big games. So with that, we're gonna head into trivia. We're gonna get that out.
Whoa! I have a couple of words.
Oh, okay. Let's go.
Okay. Well, I was letting you. You were on a roll. I wanted you to keep going. The 2 awards I want to name. I mean, an obvious one is the John Mackey Award. Obviously, no matter what, it's going to go to Kyle Pitts this year. I mean, just absolute beast at tight end. And
unless he misses the rest of the games, and I think he won't be eligible. But yeah, he's clear.
He should have won it last year, but due to a technicality, he didn't have enough plays with his hand in the dirt. They didn't get it.
Hey, the guy who won last year, Harrison Bryant, is a proud, happy member of the Cleveland Browns, and he's amazing.
I knew it was going to come up. I knew as soon as I brought it up. Um, the next one I think is an interesting matchup this year, and going to be an interesting final race, is the Bolitnikoff Award for the best wide receiver in the country. Right now, my leading candidate for it is Elijah Moore. We talked about it beforehand. He's number one in the nation in catches at 74, yards per game at 150, yards overall at 1,054. He has and catches per game with 10, and he's third in the nation in receiving touchdowns at 8. But he's the only wide receiver in college football right now with over 1,000 receiving yards, and that was given. I feel like this would be Jalen Waddle's award, but of course, him being out and not coming back, and Devontae Smith, I just don't think will have enough time to catch up to him. But Elijah Moore has 3 games of 10 plus receptions and over 200 yards, and he's the only SEC player in history, mind you, with 225 receiving yards in consecutive games. The dude is an absolute monster. The only people that I think that can compete with him are, as I just mentioned, is Devontae Smith. If he can keep going off like he has been, it's just he's going to surpass him. And the other one is Daz Newsome out of North Carolina. We talked about him on Tuesday. Dude is just an absolute workhorse, has a bunch of games with over 100 receiving yards, hasn't quite eclipsed the 200 yet. I think he only eclipsed it once, but just an absolute specimen and definitely a huge asset for Sam Howell over there at UNC. But I think if it continues to go the way that this year's gone, I think that Elijah Moore will win over Devontae Smith.
Yeah, I like that pick, and I like Devontae Smith too. And like I mentioned earlier for Ohio State, Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson are both really, really good, but they're going to hurt each other in awards races because they split receptions. So before we get into our last segment of trivia, make sure you check our Twitters and Facebook for updates because we've had a couple schedule changes in the past week, and we will continue to have them possibly. But if you check Facebook or our Twitter page, my Twitter page, Jake's Twitter page, or the Fourth and Long Twitter page, we'll keep you up to date, and we'll also keep you up to date on new COVID or cancellations or postponements. And then I want to talk about the MAC real quick. Obviously, Buffalo is probably is the league contender to win the MAC East and go to the MAC championship. But Kent State absolutely in the battle for the wagon wheel. Kent State destroyed rival Akron, who's only 8 miles away. I believe it was 69-35, and they amassed over 750 yards total offense. So Coach Sean Lewis is really kind of turning things around there, and that's good to hear. It's good to see for like a local college to get things going. So with that, we're going to get into our trivia. We have decided to pretty much make our trivia 2010 and beyond. For you, I'll make it 2014 and beyond because I can remember 2010. I don't know if you can, but I'll start out.
Okay. That I have a couple questions from the 2013 season.
That's fine. But, we don't need to be exactly at an hour, Jake. Calm down. You should be able to get these, I think.
Okay.
Who were the 4 teams in the first ever college football playoff?
I remember this. Oregon, Alabama, Clemson, and Ohio State.
Is that your final answer?
No. I know it's definitely Alabama. I know it's definitely Oregon. Yeah, that's my final answer. Don't try to do that to me.
You're incorrect.
God darn it.
You have the wrong ACC team, buddy.
Don't tell me.
Famous Jameis.
Oh my God! Oh yeah, they faced. Oh, that stupid play where he goes back and then just.
Yeah.
Yeah, I literally just watched that. I remember watching it on Instagram, going through my feed and being like, I remember that.
Yeah.
So I had 3. I had 3 out of the 4.
Yeah, you still get no points.
No, I know. My first one is, who's the youngest player to win the Heisman at the age of 19?
So is this one of them from 2000? You can't tell me the year.
No, I can't tell you the. I can't tell you.
It's not from 2013 because I want to say Mark Ingram won it then. Was it Johnny Manziel?
You're gonna kick yourself for this one.
All right, yeah. Okay, go ahead, type it in.
I am.
Stupid.
I knew. I'm like, oh, this might be a dangerous one to go first, but
That's really young to be a sophomore, though, or a redshirt freshman. That's really young. Okay, my second to last one is these all revolve around the college football playoff, but which stadium did Ohio State and Oregon play in for the college football championship in 2015? 2014.
Can you repeat that?
2015. Which stadium did Ohio State play Oregon in the national championship of 2014-2015?
Was it for the national championship?
Yes.
You said 2014. Was it?
It was the first college football playoffs ever. Yeah. One that Ohio State won.
The one that Ohio State won? Oh, well, that was. Oh, I remember this. Oh, you're not gonna. Oh, I'm gonna kick myself if I don't get this right. Was it? Oh, they ran over Oregon. Was it? Oh, it was. Oh, it's in where Dak is now. Or not Dak. Zeke is. AT&T Stadium.
Yes.
Okay.
You could have also answered Jerry's World, and I would have got that as a correct answer as well.
Okay. All right. So I'm 1-1 right now. You're one. Waiting on my second question. Who has the oldest stadium in college football? Now I'm gonna narrow it down for you. All right. I'm narrowing it down the area. It's between Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Maryland. Or no. Sorry, it wasn't Maryland. It's actually my home state, Massachusetts.
Boston College or Harvard.
Nope.
Type it in. I was going to go with that one, but I thought they renovated their stadium. Because it used to be Penn State up until like, I don't know, like 5, 10, 15 years ago. They renovated their stadium, though.
Yep.
I'm over to whatever. I went on picks and locks, not trivia. It's stupid. Now you asked me where someone went to college, one of the superstars went to college, I'll tell you right away. All right, and for my last question, name 4 of the 7 teams to appear in the college football playoff only once.
So you're talking college football playoffs, right?
Yeah, so 2014 till now. Who has only appeared once? 4 of the 7 teams.
4 of the 7 teams have only appeared once in it? That's actually, like, besides the fact, that's actually crazy that 4 of the teams only have appeared once.
7 teams have only appeared once.
17?
7 teams have only appeared once, but you just have to name 4 of them.
4 of them? Okay. Notre Dame is one. I know that.
Yeah.
Florida State.
Yep.
Florida State. I'm not going to say them, even though I want to.
You got about 15 seconds, buddy.
Come on. I'm trying. I know you're putting me on the spot, but at the same time, it's like.
You got 2 in a row real quick.
I know I got 2 in a row real quick, but I'm like, Oregon.
Yes. One
and
more.
And then last one. Oh, was it? I'm gonna get this one wrong. I already know it. Wisconsin?
No.
Oh, do I get one more guess or?
No, you're out. You're gonna kick yourself. But you had Florida State, Notre Dame, and Oregon.
I'm missing one. Do I get part? I feel like I should deserve partial.
You're missing 4.
Michigan State. 4.
Michigan State. LSU last year. Washington.
Oh, right. That was the first year they were in.
Washington and
right, Washington. There was really those teams that got in, and everyone's like, why? And
Georgia.
Yeah. Do I get at least part? I should get half a point for
you
that.
Get 0.
Okay, fine.
You're already winning in trivia by like a lot. So
Okay. Which is the largest stadium in college football? This one should be easy.
attendance wise, or
Just seat capacity, I believe.
it's
I swear, if you don't get this right, I
Michigan,
will.
Ann Arbor.
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
So we're both 1 and 2.
Yeah.
All right.
I was
That
like,
was
if you
good.
didn't
That
get
was
that,
better. That was better. That was better than like the who won the Heisman in 1942.
yeah. I
Like
mean, I feel like the youngest Heisman was like a
that was
little
good.
bit unfair, but at the same time, we literally talked about him in your first tribute.
Yeah, and I do also kind of remember him being like a really young for his class. But so that was
Yeah, he had the crab scandal. I was gonna give that as a hint, and then I knew you were gonna know what it was.
crab scandal. The F for right in the P thing
Yeah.
when he said that.
Oh,
And
in the infamous Monday Night Football, I'm gonna eat it up.
what was even worse? Do you remember when he got in trouble for standing on the table in the cafeteria and yelling "effer" in the P, and then
No,
he got suspended for 1 game by Jimbo Fisher, and he came out in full pads like he was playing.
no, I don't remember that. I don't remember that at all.
That was like his second. That was the year after he won the Heisman, I think. So, but yeah, that's gonna do it for us tonight. Jake, thank you for joining us. It is awesome that we actually have a good slate tomorrow to like kind of look forward
Yeah.
to. I mean, there are really just 2 big games, but there aren't like. But in between Ohio State and
There's other games that are going to be
yeah,
interesting to watch.
and
It's
they'll
not
be
just
able to
you
watch.
only
Yeah,
have
yeah.
one game to watch. It's like, okay, like we have games throughout the day that are actually going to be good to watch. I mean,
Yeah.
and we started off great last night with Tulane versus Tulsa, even though I'm pretty sure no one here probably watched.
So yeah, it's gonna do it for our show. Like I said, we'll follow us on Twitter and check our Facebooks. You need to accept my Facebook friend request so I can, add you to when I post that we're going live. For updates on our schedule and everything like that. This week is a big Maction week. Kent plays Buffalo for probably the right to go to the MAC championship from the east side, and Western Michigan is leading in the west side, so it could be Kent and Western or Buffalo and Western. And obviously, anyone who has COVID or has family members or staff members, players, coaches, we wish you the best and a speedy recovery. And then once again, Jake, we congratulate you on getting into Pepperdine.
Thank
Like
you.
I said, I expect you to make a lot of money living in Malibu, and I'll be out there frequently. So
No worries. Hey, we might actually be able to have you. You never know. We might have a Rose Bowl game this year we could go to.
yeah, there is. I think the Rose Bowl is predicted to be it's the 2-3 game. So I don't
That
see
would be
I don't see Ohio State going to 1
yeah.
or 4. So
I think they're staying at. To be honest, I think they'll stay
I,
at
I
number.
don't think I don't think they can get out of that 3 spot, because the only way they can get out of the only way they can't get out of the 2-3 game simply because the highest they can move up is probably the 2 seed, because Alabama will hold down the 1 seed. But we ran a little long tonight, but and sorry we started a little late. We had some things to do. Right,
Actually,
Jake?
no, I'm going to take the blame for that one. I fell asleep after I came back home from work. I apologize, people. I started a little late. I needed to fix my notes up. I apologize for that. Hopefully, it won't happen again. But that's what happens when you start work at 5 a.m. and we're up since midnight. So
Yeah, I for sure thought that you were shot and killed by a gang member. So
I live in Santa Monica now. Come on, I don't live in.
I don't know anything about California. So, well, that's gonna do it for our show. Like I said, we have introduced live blogging now on Back Sports page. I don't believe we're doing it this Saturday, but we could have it maybe championship weekend, championship week, or something like that, where we live blog all the games. So. That's going to do it for us on the November 19th, Friday, episode 13. Peace out, y'all. Have a good weekend. Jake, anything else?
No, just everyone stay safe out there. States are starting to shut down again due to high volume of COVID cases. Just remember, be aware of who's around you and be, mindful of those around you.
All right. Later, guys.